Bonjour, welcome to my channel. This is Meg. In this video, I will share my process and also share the mistakes I made, which you can avoid. So if I can do it, you can do it. Bonjour. Welcome to my channel. This is Meg. I'm a San Francisco-based designer, fresh out of the boat about 3 years ago almost. Before that, I spent most of my 20s living in London in the UK. In the past months, I watched Emily in Paris and another show which was shot in London and some other places in Europe. It kind of made me a little homesick. I really miss the bakeries in Europe and also those French pastries. Oh gosh. So for my birthday this year, I decided to bake a French cake. So I followed the recipe by Dominique Ansel from MasterClass. It took a really long time, to be honest. It's very different from the typical American cake. It's also different from British cakes like Victoria sandwich, which I really loved baking. But to be honest, I didn't succeed in the first try because I was trying to be lazy and trying to skip some steps, making the mousse from pre-made mix, which didn't work just because it's not the same consistency to have that smooth surface. So I started over again and followed the recipe to make the mousse from scratch, make everything from scratch basically, and eventually succeeded. So in this video, I will share my process and also share the mistakes I made, which you can avoid. I am an amateur baker, so if I can do it, you can do it. I will include the recipe in the description below, and feel free to ask questions and comment below. Connect with me on Instagram. If you like this video, please smash the like button to help YouTube with algorithm, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Alright, without further ado, let's get it started. For this chocolate mousse cake, you need to start with the cake base, which is a French biscuit. For the filling, it's chocolate mousse, and optional, you can glaze with dark chocolate mirror glaze. As you can tell, it's very complicated and it will take at least 2 days to prepare and make. For this recipe, what I found is you can actually make 2 cakes, and that's what I did. I will link the recipe in the description below. For the base, it's actually quite simple. You do need to separate the eggs into yolks and whites. What I found interesting is for this recipe, it doesn't have flour. So this biscuit is just eggs, sugar, and cocoa powder. But you don't want to bake in a tin, but you want to spread them out and then bake evenly. So you can cut into different shapes after they are baked. After making the base in the tutorial, it's the meringue, but actually I didn't bake the meringue because I don't really like meringues and I didn't want to decorate the cake with meringue, so I skipped that part and jumped into making the mousse directly. For the chocolate mousse, please do not use the pre-made mix. Because I did that and it failed, because the pre-made mix, you basically have to whip it, and it's really hard to get that silky consistency to have a smooth surface. For the chocolate mousse, I actually used ruby chocolate from Belgium to replace dark chocolate in the recipe. I used the same amount and it worked perfectly, so you can choose different type of chocolate based on your preference. To make the mousse, you will need to boil the milk to melt the chocolate, and then mix in the pre-soaked gelatin to get the consistency of mayonnaise, and let it cool to 90 to 95 degrees Fahrenheit. And then it's the important part, when you whisk the cream, please don't over whip. You don't want it to have too much air, which will not have the smooth surface. So it should be medium stiff peaks. To combine the ganache and cream, you need to make sure the ganache is at room temperature so it will not melt the whipped cream. To combine them, you want to slowly pour the ganache in and then fold from the bottom to top, and don't overmix, otherwise it will be too runny. Now you can assemble the biscuit and the mousse cake together and freeze in the freezer. For the two cakes, one I use a cake mold, which I just pour the mousse in and then place the biscuit, which I cut into a smaller size than the mold, and then put another layer of mousse and another layer of the biscuit to completely fill this mold before putting into the freezer overnight. For the cake ring, I cut the biscuit with the same cake ring, so it will be the same size. So I place the biscuit at the bottom and then a layer of mousse, a layer of biscuit and another layer of mousse. And before I put into the freezer, I make sure the surface is smooth. Once the cakes are frozen overnight or more than a day, they are ready to be decorated. For the one I made with cake mold, I just sprayed with food coloring. It turned out nicely into velvet texture after set a while. And then the one that I made with the cake ring, I followed the recipe to make the chocolate mirror glaze. I actually should have let the glaze sit a little longer to get cooler before pouring onto the frozen cake, and because the cake I took out a little early and the glaze is a little warmer, so I only get a very thin layer of the glaze and then I poured it again, so the surface is not as smooth as I want it to be, but it turned out great. And then I decorated with chocolate instead of the meringue, so you can decorate with anything you like to complete this mousse cake. It's definitely the cake that will wow your friends. And it tastes even better than it looks, even though it takes a lot of time to prepare and do it right, but it totally worth it. I think I will make it again. Please find the recipes in the description below. If you have questions, feel free to comment. Don't forget to like this video and follow me on Instagram, and also subscribe to my channel. I look forward to share more videos in the future. See you next time.